and we saw this little white tic-tac looking object.
No, that is a tic-tac. New footage confirms the existence of UFOs, or UAPs as they're now known. Does the fact that this information is coming from the Pentagon undermine it in your mind? Why are these revelations being made now, at this point in history, midst the pandemic and the legislation around it and the peculiarity of the culture wars and conflicts that the world is cleaved apart in this moment? We'll be speaking to Jeremy Corbell on Under the Skin, my podcast on Luminary soon, but let's before that try to understand the implications of these revelations and its implications around politics and power.
On a pitch black night off the coast of California, newly leaked video allegedly shows one of the U.S. Navy's stealth ships tracking an unknown object in the sky. And after a few minutes...
Splashed. Mark bearing and range.
I spoke to Jeremy Corbell recently to organise his forthcoming interview on Under the Skin, and he told me the reason that this particular piece of footage is significant is because the object transitions between being in the air and under the water. That distinction shows that it requires a propulsion system that is difficult to conceive of having ever come from human beings. I'm only interested in the tech as so far as it indicates an intelligence beyond what we can conceive of. And that's always been obvious, hasn't it? It's like, as Arthur C. Clarke says, either there is extraterrestrial life or there isn't, and we're alone in the universe. Either proposition is kind of giddying and amazing. But for this historic moment we are experiencing now, what's interesting is that something that's was always on the periphery of culture, always in the margins, discussed by nerds and eccentrics, always seen through the lens of the B-movie or the psychotic. Probes from an alien, you're some kind of weirdo, son. And now it's Barack Obama is talking about it. The Pentagon are admitting it. Now, gosh, don't think of me as some sort of super cynic ridden with doubt, but why are they saying this? Particularly as we're living in a really interesting time due to the pandemic and the consequences of the pandemic, the legislative changes and restrictions that are resulting from the pandemic, the pharmaceutical implications of the pandemic, what's happening between America and China. You can't, I don't think, divorce this from geopolitics. Where does this event fit into the geopolitical landscape of today? How is it being used? Or is it simply a kind of a smoke bomb sideshow situation? It can't be, can it? Because if there is life beyond Earth, intelligence beyond Earth, and as I, for one, have always suspected, that intelligence has been communicating with humankind throughout history, and even biblical encounters of celestial beings are in fact reports of extraterrestrial life, that the way that we perceive of consciousness, i.e. consciousness happens inside the brain and can't be transmitted, versus the idea of consciousness being a kind of a frequency that we can all tune into. All of these ideas become attached. They are the cargo of this revelation. If there are spacecraft that can transition into aquatic travel and aeronautical travel, then that means that they're using propulsion systems that operate outside of our understanding of physics. That energy, the most fundamental component of reality, is behaving in ways that we can't comprehend. Of course, the revelations in the realm of quantum physics opened our mind to the possibility that we are operating in a narrow bandwidth of all potential realities. Even observable to us are different physical laws playing out. But this casts it wider open still. What are the political, spiritual, economic, ideological ramifications of such an earth-shattering event?
The 2019 footage obtained by filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, who last month released another video of an upside-down pyramid UFO hovering above a Navy destroyer.
Jeremy Corbell did indicate to me that there would be great revelations. I made it clear to him that what interests me most of all are the spiritual side of it. I'm interested in, because you watch these videos, I'm interested in the way that systems of power are organised. That's what interests me most. Because this has come from the Pentagon, I think, well, hold on, the Pentagon, it's not like Mary Poppins has told us, well, we can tell you now, kids, there are UFOs. It's the Pentagon. You only need to look into the kind of deals those guys are involved in. Proceed with caution, proceed with caution. And when blue chip, blue church, legacy figures such as Barack Obama are talking about it publicly. This is a cultural and contextual shift. But for me, the underlying reality that we're dealing with something profound beyond, unprecedentedly profound, has to be acknowledged and explored.
The mission of ATIP was quite simple. It was to collect and analyze information involving anomalous aerial vehicles. What I guess in the vernacular you call them UFOs.
Those of you that have watched this footage, the first thing you have to get past is that man's sort of beard.
We call them UAPs.
For me, even if someone's talking about UFOs or UAPs or whatever they're called, OAPs or IPCs or whatever they're called now, even if they're talking like that, I will have to spend a little while going, that's an interesting piece of facial hair.
Imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces, that can fly at 13,000 miles an hour, that it can evade radar, and that can fly through air and water and possibly space. And, oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces, and yet still can defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity.
What this does is opens up plausible speculation. Have we been in touch with extraterrestrial for a long while? What are events like Roswell? What's been going on at Area 51? All of these kind of questions now, once again, are revitalized. What I suppose I see positive about this is a time where we need to examine new paradigms. With the pandemic, the connotations and complications that have come from it, people are saying, well, how can we ever go back to normal again? What is normal now? Well, me, as a father of young children and a person that's always been suspicious of power and authority, I am reflecting on how the world could be organised differently, more fairly. My sense is that in certain areas like comfort and consuming, we need to be ready to compromise and change, but we might be able to re-engage once more with a kind of a mystery embracing sense of community, that we might be able to live together tribally, communally, connected to nature and one another, with the new knowledge that what's happening on Earth is special and magnificent, but not unique. There is life elsewhere. There are different layers to reality, that there are different technological solutions outside of the limitations of what human beings previously thought of as possible. And our new kings, their tech billionaires and their financial heft and might, which is being transposed into ideological might. Well, we've built this company and this company, we should be in charge of the future. Well, no, not necessarily. Not if there are extraterrestrial intelligence that we're interacting with which are inconceivably advanced. They're at a point that we're not going to see in 5, 10, 20, 30 lifetimes before people are manipulating gravity and manipulating potentially time and operating not only in this dimension in ways that we can't conceive of, but potentially outside of this dimension. That's how deep it is. We've been trained to kind of see it in a sort of a cod cartoon, somewhat immature and disposable way. But the philosophical connotations of an advanced technological species interacting with the Earth, of course, is by its nature paradigm shifting. It opens up new potentials of reality. It means we can look at established authority and established order with new eyes, with the possibility of real change. This is where change can come from. This is one of the things that can be mobilized, and its implications for consciousness and the way that we understand reality.
Recently released images may not convince UFO skeptics, but the Pentagon admits it doesn't know what in the world this is.
So what do you say to the skeptics? It's refracted light, weather balloons, a rocket being launched, Venus.
Venus can't fly around above a battleship like a little green bit of Toblerone.
In some cases, there are simple explanations for what people are witnessing, but there are some that are not. We're not just simply jumping to a conclusion that's saying, oh, that's a UAP out there. We're going through our due diligence. Is it some sort of new type of cruise missile technology that China has developed? Is it some sort of high-altitude balloon that's conducting reconnaissance.
I read the comments, and if you're in the comments going, this is a Chinese thing, stop spoiling it. This is magical space, people. This is a glorious new epoch with new advanced technologies, themselves an indication not only of a greater intelligence, but a greater consciousness beyond the previous limitations of our species. Of course, the Pentagon, and by virtue of that fact, the American government could be using this in a propagandist way. What else would they be doing? I hear you. But the important thing is that there is extraterrestrial life. That's the important revelation here.
The Pentagon confirms these are images of objects it can't identify. Lieutenant Graves told us pilots training off the Atlantic coast see things like that all the time.
All the time. It's a normal, ordinary thing. Well, you know, if there are spaceships, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Bloody hell, you couldn't handle Donald Trump being in the White House. Hey, go with ET.
Every day for at least a couple of years.
Wait a minute, every day for a couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
David Fravor, a graduate of the Top Gun Naval Flight School,
Don't be childish.
and commander of the F-18 squadron on the USS Nimitz, and flying at his wing, Lieutenant Alex Dietrich.
And we saw this little white tic-tac looking object,
No, that is a tic-tac.
and it's just kind of moving above the whitewater area.
As Dietrich circled above, Fravor went in for a closer look.
Sort of spiraling down?
The tic-tac's still pointing north-south.
Stop calling it a tic-tac. Once we've had confirmation, it undermines it. And then there's a polar one and a Toblerone one. The universe is alive with confectionery.
It goes flip, and just turns abruptly and starts mirroring me. So as I'm coming down, it starts coming up.
So it's mimicking your moves.
Yeah, it was aware we were there.
He said it was about the size of his F-18, with no markings, no wings, no exhaust plumes.
I'll see how close I can get. So I go like this, and it's climbing still. And when it gets right in front of me, it just disappears.
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 His mood's not changing. Disappears.
Disappears.
When's he going to go, bloody hell, this is amazing? He's too sort of aloof. I like him, but he's aloof.
What are you thinking?
So your mind tries to make sense of it. I'm going to categorize this as maybe a helicopter or maybe a drone. And when it disappeared, I mean, it was just...
Did your backseaters see this too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Again, like I suppose the tendency to categorize it as something ordinary could be, we could transpose that notion onto different forms of understanding of reality. We're like, you know, the famous adage of the Aztec folk that couldn't see the arriving ships of Spanish crusaders. We are unable to see the potentialities of visual grammar and philosophical implications that we're unable to interpret.
There was 4 of us in the airplanes literally watching this thing for roughly about 5 minutes.
Seconds later, the Princeton reacquired the target, 60 miles away.
That one's actually literally out of Star Wars. That's like Darth Vader's spaceship.
Another crew managed to briefly lock onto it with a targeting camera before it zipped off again.
You know, I think that over beers we've sort of said, hey, man.
Over beers? Hey, man, is it literally Top Gun? And then sometimes during volleyball, you know, there's a bit of tension between me and Iceman. We've worked it out.
If I saw this solo, I don't know that I would have come back and said anything because it sounds so crazy when I say it.
You understand that reaction?
I do. I've had some people tell me, you know, when you say that, you can sound crazy. And I'll be honest, I'm not a UFO guy.
But from what I hear you guys saying, there's something.
Yes.
Oh, there's definitely something.
Yeah, tic-tacs, mostly.
I don't know who's building it, who's got the technology, who's got the brains, but there's something out there that was better than our airplane.
Fascinating. Well, this is very exciting and points beautifully to our forthcoming interview on Under the Skin, my Luminary podcast with Jeremy Corbell, where I'll be talking about the spiritual implications, the philosophical connotations. If you've got any questions or any areas of this you'd like to see explored, put them in the comments below. If you want to see more videos about UFOs and stuff like this, let us know. Please like and please subscribe. It really helps us. And would you sign up to my mailing list? I've got some important, brilliant, insightful announcements coming your way soon. Go over to russellbrand.com and sign up for that now. The truth is in the Pentagon. Thanks for watching.